Hi, I'm JAMm, and recently I've been playing through We Love Katamari Damacy Reroll plus Royal Reverie, and if you've seen my video about Katamari Damacy Reroll, you'll probably guess that I like this one too. And you're wrong, I absolutely love this game, but that's besides the point. Not only has this game elevated what is possible in this franchise to a whole new level, but it took the solid foundation the first game set and rolled with it. Let's get into it. Katamari Damacy is known as the franchise where you start small and your goal is to get tall. To do that, you need to roll up everything in your way. But when you're small, it's just not possible to roll up something like an elephant, but maybe something like a playing card would be more realistic. I think what people don't realize is that this game is so much more than just aimlessly wandering around. Trying to get massive is literally a massive undertaking. You need to think about your route at all times, so you can achieve getting the largest size comprehensible. And the game designers knew this, so they carefully designed every single level with that in mind. They carefully placed smaller items around the starting location so the player can get to a size where they can start rolling up things like cats, people, cars, buildings, etc, etc. I like how the game can give you a gentle nudge into the right direction by just having items that you think you can probably roll up, which usually ends up being very fruitful. While it's somewhat hand-holding, it's giving the player a chance to properly explore the level for what would probably be the first time, and gives them an impression on what they have in store. What I don't really like is when the game stops for 5 seconds because the king is like, "Yo dog, this gate opened because you're big enough to go through." Whee! If the item placement is a gentle nudge, that's an aggressive push with malicious intent, and I will press charges if this keeps up, so you better knock it off! I don't like it! It's cringe! In the first Katamari Damacy, they really reserved how often you could roll up houses and the literal earth to try and keep the allure of power to a minimum. In We Love Katamari Damacy, they show you the final level within the first 20 minutes. Spoiler alert by the way, but the sheer amount of power you get from rolling up entire planets with the end goal of rolling up the sun is frankly indescribable. The game does this on purpose though, to allow for more clever level design and to keep the player on their toes throughout the game. And to be honest, I'm absolutely here for it. In the first Katamari Damacy, there were levels where you would only have to pick up one type of item like a crab to make up the constellation of Cancer. And while these types of levels do return, they also exist alongside levels like you are a ball of fire and you need to light up a campfire. Get more items so you have a larger flame at the campfire and so that your current flame doesn't burn up. As well as you're in an F1 race. Consume the competition. Which ends up being an auto mover and it takes you by surprise because oh my god, I didn't know that this was possible. 1 minute I'm rolling up snow to make the head of a snowman, then I'm rolling up the gingerbread house Hansel and Gretel are wanting to get inside because 2 old women told me that they really like sweets. The bizarre nature of this series isn't lost in We Love Katamari, rather it's embraced and elevated to a whole new level. I think that's a great way to describe this game's mantra, embrace and elevate. Finding this evolution and experimentation of mechanics in almost every level was so cool to experience. I was genuinely in awe while playing because there were so many unique and interesting ideas the team play around with while making this game, as well as sticking to the pre-established ideas that the first game made. And that to me is more impressive than seeing Spider-Man get a new skill tree or Link making Banjo-Kazooie cars. This felt like jumping from Mario 64 to Mario Odyssey in one game. The level of quality ideas and evolution of gameplay was truly phenomenal. Genuine innovation within gaming is frankly rare to see these days. I've been playing a lot of games recently that all feel the same. From first-person shooters to platformers, they all have cool ideas and concepts that to me just fall short of greatness. But for the first time in what feels like months, I've been blessed with a game that was able to master this gameplay loop that was just fun and refreshing. It's a puzzle game with arcade and open world elements. Name a better mix. You won't? I'll give you honey if you do. Now you might be going, JAMm, how could it have open world elements? What does that even mean, bro? The game has larger levels where the player starts inside of a house and ends by consuming the very land the house stood on. The game gives the player more freedoms than usual when tackling those types of levels, and allows the player to explore a massive and expansive world that's 100 times larger than a normal level. This isn't the case of it has Ubisoft towers, but it doesn't gently nudge you as much as it would in a normal level. You could say it's more open zone like Sonic Frontiers, but open world just had a better ring to it. I'm not calling We Love Katamari Damacy Reroll an open world game by any means either, but it does have some similarities with open world titles in some levels, which again shows how truly diverse and unique. The level design of this game truly is. Now, up until this point, I've been singing this game's praises because, well, it deserves it. But I would like to say that while yes, there are a lot of great things going for this game, the game did have minor performance issues here and there. Mainly when the king would come out in a level to say, "Yo dog, you're like 10 centimeters or something. Eat this gate, lol." It was minor loading issues, but it was rather jarring every time it happened, because it would go from buttery smooth gameplay to literal dial-up internet load times. Compared to Katamari Damacy Reroll, this game seemingly has a lesser draw distance, which in a game like Katamari Damacy is pretty important because you need to be able to see as much as possible. This really sucked because a lot of avoidable mistakes wouldn't have happened if I was just able to see more. The last thing that to me was a massive disappointment was the new content, also known as Royal Reverie. Royal Reverie was genuinely just reskinned versions of previous levels. They might have introduced some cool ideas, like making a stealth game out of Katamari, or collecting items to make a health bar go down, but it was just 5 reskinned levels, which is genuinely very disappointing, as I was expecting a fair amount more than what I got, and what I did get was okay at best. I could have spent my time talking to you about how the user interface is easier to navigate, or how the visuals are better, or the fact that the story and dialogue has improved since the last game. But in my opinion, games like this don't need that extra garbage thrown at you. The game is very stylized because the franchise is. The game controls better because of course it does. It's a remake with better controls and enhanced visuals. If it didn't do the 2 things it set out to do, it wouldn't have been published the way that it was. The gameplay for me will always be this game's biggest positive because of how fun I find it, but it's also this game's greatest enemy, because let's face it, in a sea of Marios and GTAs, little Timmy isn't playing Katamari because it looks weird, and it isn't really a game for the general audience. Katamari isn't some art house experience by any means, but it is genuinely really different compared to most games. If not for its gameplay, then because of its witty writing. A lot of this game's humor is mainly the characters bullying the player, or the self-absorbed king swooning over himself. The characters are really expanded a lot in this game, and we start to understand where these traits come from. And I know this is a direct contradiction to what I just said, but a lot of this game's charm comes from the story and writing, and I'd be a fool not to briefly mention it. I really liked everything a lot more compared to the first game's story and presentation. Getting to the levels was just so much more interesting. Instead of having to make stars and planets because of the king's selfishness, in-universe fans of Katamari Damacy are asking the king for help with their request, and that's just so cool. This also helps a lot with the pacing of the game. Everything just felt so much more smooth and refined compared to Katamari Damacy, albeit a bit short. It took me just over 4 hours to beat the game, but every level has variance, and while I wasn't a massive fan of Royal Reverie, it did give me more Katamari, so I can't complain too much. Look, I know people won't get this game because some jar of jam praised it, but I hope at the very least, I opened your mind to it. This game is deceptively simple, and I found those types of games to truly be the ones that I keep coming back to. So please, if you want to play a fun experience that's laid back and a bit different, pick up We Love Katamari Damacy Reroll plus Royal Reverie. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it's on Xbox One, both Series S and X, PS4 and 5, Nintendo Switch, and PC. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm still JAMm, and thank you very much for watching.